the high takes we saw in the first two games.
But this is the FNCS if you want to watch it. Solo qualify one.
As well as these guys have done, I wouldn't be surprised if there's been a couple arguments today, knowing these two guys. I mentioned it at the start of the show, but you know, they do clash heads at times, and I'm sure some of the more unfortunate games they've had of late maybe have sparked some, but in this final game, they have to be united.
Well, at least they have home turf in this game, right? I think for
Finally.
4 out of 5 games, yeah, we've been in the desert. We got one pull up near the top, which was the last one, but now we're all the way on that north side.
But to be fair, like we sort of mentioned earlier, right, of all the North teams, they're the team that probably won't mind as much, just because they have a means of transport, unlike some of the other ones, right? So
makes a lot more sense, and they don't even have to move that much either. Darkiz and Satan as well, 8th overall. I think they've kind of been our poster child for mid-game positioning, and just a safe spot to tune in with the entire day, but also pretty quiet so far. Very close to being inside the top 5. Don't have like the pizzazz, some tag we can put onto them like we are on a bunch of these teams today. But maybe they can finally find that definition, the personality they need, the one big play in this final game to get top 5.
let's take a look at some of the things that have been happening in and around the map. Kami here over at Rocky Rails, forcing his way into Zrox's box and dealing with him appropriately. Mustache now, hitting some shots of his own on Pink. Pink was looking a bit lost there, unfortunately. He goes down. Oof.
Oh, wow.
A clean shot from X-Force.
These are some chunky striker pumps coming in, just taking away HP pools over and over again. And this is going to be very good for Relphus and Krusty on some of the teams that we saw fall in that replay package. A lot of opponents that have been picking them apart the entire day. They get to live, breathe, and they're in second place looking really good, right beside Grolls and Shizo.
Do you think these guys hold on to their 5th place slot?
See, let's actually answer it from the perspective of casters and analysts. Let's do our Restore Chopper ones. What do they need to stay in 5th place in this game?
Well, to start off with, max materials is nice on Mustache.
Yeah.
They've obviously got decent positioning. I'm assuming they'll be fine on Surge in terms of the off-spawn fight that they had with Pink and Anas.
Yep.
Obviously a pad would help, I'm sure, but I'm not sure if there was one in the other inventory. He didn't have one when we were just watching there.
What I'm thinking from them, right, is they need to get to a point where they can start playing their game. I feel like the one big buff and the one aspect of Mustache that no one can touch, as soon as they hit that 6th zone, 7th zone, they're not playing on anyone else's lair anymore, right? No one's kind of coming to them in a sense. They get to dictate every fight. They get to see every rotation, make pre-edit plays. They get to dictate the pace of the game.
Yeah, one of the keys to why they're so successful in that particular sort of field is the fact that they are so incisive with their decisions, right? Doubt is one of the biggest, you know, sort of problems you can have at the highest level of Fortnite, right? Doubt is huge, and they have none, right? They make all their decisions with such conviction in those moments, and so if they get there, they're always going to be a big threat. And we've seen why, and hopefully we can continue to see why as they push to keep 5th place and even higher. Floki and Clement not looking too comfortable right now.
Trying their best to make some of this game, but you have to understand everyone that's kind of like in this position, 16th to 22nd place. They not only need this VR, they need so many more eliminations. So as a result, you can already see in this lobby, 2nd zone, only 62 players alive. All these fights breaking out, all these small bases, everyone's trying to get their games ramped up fast. Now, to go back to Mustache and Malibuca, one place where they don't have control is when the game does get very slow. When there's so many people alive and they don't get to choose where to go. Where now they're indecisive rather than decisive, like Levin's saying, where some of the hesitation comes in. What's really good for them and a lot of these teams that are good for late game, like Floki and Clement that you just saw. With so many people going down, there's more room to actually play. There's more room to be passive. You don't have to actually stick your neck out and get that much surge. It's so much better for these late game, mid, low ground teams, and that's exactly the game that Mustache and Malibuca and Floki and Clement play.
This is nice. You can see how every position they're taking, they're sort of trying to optimize to make sure that they can keep a high level of materials, refarming on the wood there as well. A metal box just for some added layer of security at this stage in the game. But all round things are looking really nice for them.
It's really good for Krusty and Relvis as well. I think the only times they've ever gone down is when someone actually shoots at them. When it comes to defending against pressure, I feel like this is one of the teams that gets bullied and tossed around a lot. With less teams in the mix, with people not really going for surge as much, with more quiet on the map, they get to skip a bunch of these problem zones. Meanwhile, Jerky, iDrop, people who like to bully, who like to play that slow form kind of game, go for the big mountainous positions, get tags without box fighting. This might be a different change of pace overall in game number 6. That being said, though, who do they have to take out? I mean, Mustache and Malibuka have to go down. Joins the Andy have to be removed from the equation as well. Snazy and Podesai are already gone, but everyone ahead of them are just so sticky in terms of duos. They don't like to go down early. Even in late game, they end up solo clutching all the way towards that top 10. I'm worried for iDrop and Jerky.
Yeah, they're going to have a really strong game, and especially with how well Tayson and Chapix are setting up, right? We've seen how they've struggled in some of the games in terms of being able to continue to fight for height, right? We've described it as the rounds after round, right? Do they have that endurance to go all the way in these fights?
I'm just like, it feels like, as we watch these replays, by the way, Clement and Floki just doing a really good job of waiting out the third party that was Analex and then turning around this entire fight. Going back to iDrop and Jerky, they only have like one move, which is play for high ground. We haven't seen anything else in their deck of cards. We haven't seen much inside their arsenal other than doing that fine or surviving off of that. Can they make the last minute switch to play?
I don't think they can, and I don't think they should.
Okay.
I think they have their philosophy set, they have their game model set, they understand it well, and I think they should stick to that, right? Because it can be effective, it can work. You know, we literally just saw it work, right?
True.
But at the same time, you have to have that belief. If they don't, again, like I said, it all goes back to what I was saying before about doubt, right? If they don't have that belief in themselves as they go into that final game, into the final moments,
Come on, Bugo.
you know,
Bugo,
what are you here for
Bugo,
at the end of the day?
Bugo,
So,
Bugo, 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 Bugo.
some key decisions to be had and to be made. Look, Relvis and Krusty, they've had a very consistent mid and early game. Very, very consistent, very secure.
I mean, look at the placements on the day so far. Third, and second in the business. Middle of the day, 19th and 9th. Still not the worst, but yeah, these guys scream consistency. They don't get too active on the eliminations though, but they are here to stick and play.
They've just been super efficient. They've
Yeah.
just been super efficient. And a lot of the teams that will optimize for efficiency in these lobbies do look to try to play high. They haven't necessarily done that, but they still look just as successful as anyone else, right? So, props to them. I don't expect that to change in this game. Tayson and Chapix making use of that IO vehicle that we've been raving on about all day, and they're gonna just go to pick their spot. Need to be careful, right? It is sort of getting towards that side of HP where you consider it low.
They only really need it for like the next zone. I think they're fine after that. But this is, I think, the hot seat. I mean, I've already talked about it so much. This is the only team in trouble, I feel like. I think everyone else's game plan works. It's them against the lobby right now.
This isn't good. I'm going to be forced to a stop there. They are set up nice. They've got a bunch of shields.
Oh my god.
Some white HP. Of course, Jerky takes some damage there, which may be bad. And so that's going to chunk into their shield total a bit, but the big thing here is that the team that's actually holding them, it seems, is Mustache and Malibuka, right? A team that will very much be wanting them to not do well, so we'll see. Malibuka looking for an angle.
It's 4th versus 6th.
Stinger from that range isn't amazing, but it can be annoying to deal with. But you can see that Jerky and iDrop, they just decided they're just going to invest the materials to guarantee our safety into the zone. Tunnel their way in, not taking any risks, and I